welcome to Piscataway. This is Monday, January 6, 2020, and we are on the air live. If you'd like to speak with me or my guests, please call us at any time during this hour-long program at 732-562-2305. Our guests tonight are Piscataway Township Council Vice President Kapil Shah, and from the U.S. Census Bureau, the Regional Director, Jeff Behler. Council Vice President Kapil Shah is in his first term as at-large member of the Township Council, a local business owner in Piscataway. He was a library trustee for many years and is a graduate of Citizens Police Academy. Council Vice President Shah continues to serve as Recreation Advisory Board, as well as the Council's Public Works and Personnel Committees. And welcome back to the show, Kapil.
Thank you.
Jeff Behler leads the New York City-based regional office for the U.S. Census Bureau. As director, he oversees data collection and ongoing surveys for one of just 6 regions in the country. He began his career with the Bureau in 1997 and is in his 3rd census go-around. He is a graduate of Central Michigan University, and we'd like to welcome to the IM Piscataway. Well, Jeff, thank you for stopping, taking out of your busy schedule, coming out of the New York region. I know you had to fight traffic coming out here to Piscataway, but I think it's a very important issue. I know it's near and dear to you because you work at the Census Bureau, but for those political leaders around the country and every respective town, this is, like I said, this is where all the marbles are. Because as you know, there's, the count is everything.
It is.
And no mayor across this country wants to see an undercount within their community because we want to make sure it's properly counted. And maybe what we could do is you could talk about some of the do's and don'ts of expectations of local residents or residents in general, what they can expect to see from the Census Bureau starting in April.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to actually start mailing out packets to households mid-March, the week of March 12th.
Okay. Not St. Patrick's Day?
No, not St. Patrick's Day.
Okay. So just take a wild guess, Councilman.
And in that packet, the majority of households across the nation, they're going to get an invitation to go online. That invitation will include the URL and their census ID. A census ID is just a 12-digit unique identifier. It takes place of your address. So when you go online, you enter in your ID. You can go ahead and enter in all your information. In addition to the URL and your census ID, there'll be a list of 13 different toll-free telephone numbers, one for each language we support. English and 12 non-English languages will be supported online and over the phone.
That's very interesting. So this is the first time that it's going to be generated by a computer.
Yeah, this is really the first. We've had some testing in the past, but this will be the first census in which the entire nation has the opportunity, if they choose, to go online and fill it out. They can also call it in over the phone, and every household that wants to fill it out on paper, that's the way they've always done it, that's the way they want to do it this in 2020, every household will get that opportunity.
If I'm old school or Kapil's old school, we just love to feel the paper and like read the fine print. We'll still be able to do that.
Absolutely. You may not get a questionnaire right away that midweek in March, but by the beginning of April, you'll get a paper questionnaire in the mail that you can fill out.
So what is the thought of sending it out early like that? Is it to see how many people want to do it online before you actually do the mailing for those people that actually want the hard copy?
Yeah, I mean, this really is a cost saving. So one of the things Congress had asked us is try to reduce the cost of a census. And one way to do that is when you think about we're not printing a form, mailing it out, paying for it to be mailed back in, doing the data capture, and eventual destruction of the form. All that costs money. So very high quality data can be collected online, or if the household chooses to call it in over the phone.
Yeah, that's interesting. How, in the past, how many times did a lot of people use the phone to call this?
No, this is the first time, as well as online.
Oh, this is the first.
We're actually going to collect.
Yeah, because I didn't ever recall hearing that you would have access to.
We've always had toll-free telephone support to answer questions or provide support, but this will be the first time a household can actually give their information over the phone. And what's great about the 12 languages plus English, if you call the Spanish line, someone who speaks Spanish will pick up that phone immediately. You call the Korean line or the Chinese line, someone who speaks those languages will pick up the phone and immediately converse with you, answer your question, and then if you want to give your information over the phone at that time, you can.
Same thing if they want to speak Gujarati.
Yeah.
Right?
Do they call or you guys not calling back?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
important.
That's a great question. You're absolutely right.
Because a lot of people say, I'm calling from Census, give me your information, give me your, and online, they're asking for social security number there?
No, and that's a great point to bring up. There's
Yeah.
3 things we never ask for.
Okay.
We never ask for bank account or credit card information.
Yeah.
We never ask for money, and we never ask for social security
That's
numbers.
the more important. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
In addition, we're not doing any outbound calling to collect the data.
Yeah, okay,
If there's an
that's-
issue, a quality control issue with the form that you send in or
Yeah.
you go online, we may call you to try and determine what's the right answers that you put on your form. As an example, you list 4 people, but you say there's 5 people who live in this particular housing unit. We want to know, is it really 5 or 4? We would call you for that, but we are not doing any outbound calling in order to collect the data.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess obviously the Census Bureau is concerned about some fraudulent, people, there's always some hucksters out there that will say, I'm with the Census Bureau,
Yeah.
please give me your credit card or social security,
Yeah.
that want to commit fraud on
Yep.
certain individuals.
Yep.
And that's probably the biggest challenge I think the Census Bureau is going to have, is to make sure that there's not some people trying to use information nefariously.
Yeah, there's scams every decade.
Yeah.
Every year ending in 0, there's always scams related to the census. So we have a scams webpage, 2020census.gov. You can just go and check that out. There's a toll-free telephone number if you run into any issues. When we start knocking on doors, we're going to start knocking on doors in most areas in mid-May of 2020. Every household that has yet to fill out their census will send someone there, a federal employee, to knock on their door to collect that same information that they could fill out online or over the phone or on paper. If you want to validate that that indeed is a census employee, you can call the toll-free number. But they'll all have official commerce badges. They'll all be carrying smartphones this time around to collect data.
Wow, we're gaining up in the 21st
We
century.
are.
there.
It makes us so much more efficient, and just the data quality. We can deal with any issues immediately, rather than waiting for a form to show up into the office and to key in that data.
Well, I want to remind the viewers, number is 732-562-2305. Today on the show, we have our Council Vice President, Kapil Shah, and Jeff Behler from the U.S. Census Bureau out of New York City. I guess for those lay people out in the audience, municipalities, towns are made up of various different census tracts. Can you explain what a census tract is?
Yeah, census tract, it's just a level of geography. It's the lowest level of geography where we can release data without having to mask it or hide it. So part of Title 13, which is a federal law that protects every piece of data that we collect, is we cannot release information that could potentially identify an individual or a household. And the census tract level averages anywhere from 1,500 to 8,000 people. We can provide data at a statistical summary, not including names or addresses, on age and race and different characteristics based upon the surveys that we collect.
So basically, for lay people out there in the audience, when they see stories that come out like mid-year, like every 3 years, you might see a story in the news about updates of the state of New Jersey or different areas of the country, they're obtaining that through midterm, the American Community Survey.
Absolutely.
You might want to explain what that's about.
So we have about 15 ongoing surveys that we conduct on a monthly basis, what we say the other 9 years. Everyone knows about the census in the years ending in 0, but the unemployment rate, we collect that data every month for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who calculates the unemployment rate and releases it. Consumer Price Index, housing starts, crime indices. We collect data for the CDC. The American Community Survey, which used to be part of the long form of the census back in 2000.
Yeah, I think that was like, about 5 or 6 pages or something like
Yeah,
that.
it took close to an hour. Yeah,
it was
one out of
pretty
every 6
detailed.
households. But now we're collecting that data on a monthly basis so that every community is getting a refreshed set of characteristics of their community every year.
And I guess a lot of businesses look at that data to make a profile picture of a community. I mean, municipalities, as Kapil Shah knows that, do that, but that's done for marketing purposes too.
Absolutely. When we talk about the census and why it's so important, we talk about power and we talk about money. Power in the form of representation. The U.S. seats each state has, and Congress is based upon the census. The next congressional redistricting will be based upon the 2020 census. At the state level, for their state redistricting, for voting precincts, for school districts, so it's important we get the data accurate. And then when you talk about the money, the funding, over $675 billion of federal funding is disseminated every year based upon formulas that use census data. A great study was done called Counting for Dollars, and they looked at the state of New Jersey in fiscal year 16. Over $22 billion of federal funding went to the state for programs like Medicaid and SNAP and National School Lunch Program, Title I grants, healthcare centers. If people choose not to fill out the census or think that they don't count, it will dramatically reduce
It'll
the
impact the
funding
community at large.
for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, we get one opportunity to get this right.
And for folks in town, one of the big programs that we rely on federal funds for
Yeah.
is, as Councilman Shaw knows, is the community development block grant funding, and that's
Yep, that's a piece of this, yeah, absolutely.
that's a formula driven based on population.
Absolutely.
And that is critical because, like, now that our town's over 50,000, we could apply for the direct federal grants if we want, but we piggyback with the county government, to make it more economical.
Yeah.
But that's where all the marbles are. And then, as you said before, the federal educational funding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I like to explain undercount. It's very simplistic an example, but let's say you have a school of 100 kids, and only 80 of those kids get included in the 2020 census. For the next 10 years, that school is going to get 80% of the funding it deserves, and all 100 of those kids are negatively affected. It's not just the 20 who didn't get counted. Now, just kind of apply that to Medicaid in your community, or food stamps, or health centers, or Head Start, or National School Lunch Program. An undercount, it will just hurt the community for the next 10 years. That's why it's so important that everyone get counted.
Mr. Mayor, you hit it on the head. I don't think that the general public understands, how important the census count is, because it really has a cascading effect going down at the local household level.
Yeah, absolutely.
From whether your job at work, or your school, if you have a child in a school system, or even university funding and things of that nature. And if you have an elderly population in town, or if you have a senior citizen living within your household, if you may have 3 generations in a household, the senior citizen, as Kapil knows, they may get some funding, if they're on Medicare, Medicaid, and all this other programs out there, or Meals on Wheels and things like that. It really has a broad potential impact, to the detriment if they're not counted properly.
Yeah, one of the things we learned in 2010, the fastest growing undercounted group in our nation are children under the age of 5. Families weren't including them. Some families.
So why do you think that was the case? Why, you get a thing. I mean, why would certain family members just say, all right, we don't need to count one child?
So just anecdotally, we've heard, some families want to protect their children, and this is a federal form, and they were scared to put their.
They just didn't want anybody to know that they had
Right, right. Others just thought, they're not 16 yet, so they don't need to be included. But when you think about a child who's 2 now, in 2020, the next 10 years till we do the next census, they're going to be 12. Think of all the programs that they're going to touch over the next 10 years with health, with their education. It's so important everyone get counted. Citizens, non-citizens, we're not, there is no citizenship question on the 2020 census. We have to make sure we count everyone who's living in the United States.
It's, before we went on the air, we were talking about how back in the 2000 census, this is now my 3rd census, as mayor going in, and we had an undercount in the town in 2000, is that they didn't recognize down at the university they thought 1 dorm room meant 2 students, but in some of the rooms there was 4 to 6 students. So we were able to work it out afterwards that it went by beds.
Yeah.
So that seems to be fine, because the university has all the statistics of the amount of beds in Piscataway, and so that's the number.
Yeah, we have a special operation called Group Quarters, where we reach out to colleges and universities, nursing homes, jails and prisons. It's also part of the service-based enumeration, so we'll go to homeless shelters and food kitchens, mobile food vans, and one night, either on the night of March 31st, we're actually going to go out and do a homeless count at midnight. All important things. One of the challenges, especially in a community that has a college or university, are the off-campus students.
Yes,
That
is very hard.
We actually start knocking on doors we don't wait till mid-May. We go out in early April. If we haven't received a response in those areas where students are renting homes or renting apartments, we want to catch them before they go home, because students should be counted where they usually live or stay. All residents should be counted where they usually live or stay. And in most cases, they're in Rutgers 9 months out of the year. We need to count them here.
Well, and that's, I know that is more, we have some off-campus housing that students are renting houses, but it's more prevalent in the city of New Brunswick next door.
Yeah.
But you're right on the money. I mean, we know like a lot of neighborhoods where some of the students are renting, and that's where it helps us with the landlord-tenant lease law that we have. So at least we know that they're leasing it to somebody, so that they'll have to be counted.
Yeah.
Which kind of, our planning department helps out the local, Census Bureau staffer right here. So if the town knows about it, we want to make sure that they're, nobody gets shortchanged.
Yep.
We also did have a problem with like some of the married grad students that they come and go quite frequently. So, and not necessarily we're always counting the children that were with them.
Yeah.
So like you were saying before, that some people are trying to protect their kids, but actually they're not. You're not protecting the kids by not counting them.
Yeah.
You're actually hurting.
Yeah, you absolutely are. Another challenge, couch surfers. We hear that a lot, moving from friend's house to friend's house, a different type of homelessness that we're seeing, throughout our communities. Again, it's working with the trusted voices, the local leaders, to get the message out there on what's at stake if we don't get a complete and accurate census for your community.
Now, I do know that we're going to be running public service announcements through the month, starting the first week of March, all the way through April, May, until now. When is the actual final count done?
We're scheduled right now through the end of July. So we're going to stop knocking on doors at the end of July of 2020. And at that same time, you'll still be able to self-respond all the way through the end of July. So online, over the phone, or if you still have a paper form, you can fill it out and mail it back in. So the counting period, when you think of when can I fill out my census, it's really mid-March through the end of July of 2020.
So is this potentially the last census where there'll be actually a hard copy paper?
It's a great question. It certainly would be great. I mean, it's when you think about all the logistics involved with printing, but there's some households that certainly that's the way they're going to fill out. We know we have areas with very poor or no internet connectivity. And trying to get those community members to go to a library or a place that may have internet connectivity, or if they, it will be formatted for smartphones and for tablets. So if they want to use their smartphone, they can fill it out. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what 2030 and beyond brings.
Okay. So we're gonna hold that thought. We're gonna go to the first roll-ins of January 2020, and so we're gonna queue it up. There was a press conference at the Senior Citizen Center the month of December. Congressman Palone and Congressman Malinowski and Congressman Payne were gracious enough to come to Piscataway, and Councilman Shah was in attendance there. So let's cue it up and go to the video.
What's been happening is that in other countries, mention countries like Canada, Japan, United Kingdom, there are about 6 that we kind of compare ourselves to. They all negotiate prices because, see, what we're talking about here are those prescription drugs for which there's no competition. The company that manufactures them has an exclusive right to market them. They have a patent. And so there's no other alternative out there the way it is when a drug becomes generic. And so what countries have found is that the only way to have some clout to drive down prices is by allowing the government to negotiate the price. And
state governments and municipal governments and county governments across the land actually do bulk purchasing for products and services. There's no reason why it shouldn't happen at the governmental level when it comes to purchasing prescription drugs. And the bottom line is, what does that mean for you? It means lower taxes locally.
This bill is a promise kept to every constituent who has told me, all of our constituents who have told us that they wonder why the price of insulin has tripled in America in the last 10 years, why the price of arthritis medicine has doubled in America in the last 10 years, who wonder why in the wealthiest country in the world, folks, even folks who have insurance, have to skimp on doses or skip doses in order to be able to afford their prescription drugs, or even make the choice between paying for their health care and paying for their rent or their food, taking care of their kids. These things should not be happening in the United States of America.
You know, the bill will make it easier for elderly and disabled citizens to get the life-saving and life-preserving medications at prices that they can afford. It would finally give Medicare the power to negotiate directly with drug companies to get these prices lowered. And then it will be able to offer these lower prices to all Americans, which I think is important. So not just public insurance, but people with private insurance will benefit as well.
Great. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
And I'm glad. I want to thank all three members of Congress for stopping by the Piscataway Senior Center. I think that's the first time, Councilman, that we've had 3 sitting members of Congress in the same building here in Piscataway.
A lot of question answer. A lot of people have questions. Senior have a question about Medicare and all. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually,
the-
I think the seniors that were in attendance at that,
Yeah.
they were pretty impressed that
Members, yeah.
they, all 3 of the members hung around afterwards to ask
Yeah.
questions in general, whether they
yeah.
represented them or not, so, which was good. We do have some other videotape of some swearing in of some of our police officers and promotions, so we're going to go to the videotape.
First and foremost, thank you all for coming out. These are celebrations for those that are getting promoted, and it's a celebration for our entire department to continue to move forward. And we're able to do that thanks to the support of the mayor and the council.
Repeat after me. I, Kenneth Schultz,
I, Kenneth Schultz,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in the State of New Jersey,
and in the State of New Jersey,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of Office of Sergeant,
of Office of Sergeant,
Piscataway Police Department,
Piscataway Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Sergeant. Congratulations, Ken. Congratulations, Mom. Congratulations. Right there.
I want to read a little something that was prepared many years ago. Without reservation, I would strongly recommend Kenneth Schultz for a position with the Piscataway Police Department. His honesty in the answers given, as well as his reasons for pursuing a career in law enforcement, were refreshing. He did not attempt to conceal his plans with regards to his military commitment or his scheduling conflict expectations. I wish this young man luck in his endeavors. Kenneth has a 3-month commitment to complete with the military. This must be done within the 12-month period of August 1997. Now, that beautiful piece of literature was prepared by me when I did Kenneth's background check. I'm so happy and so proud of you that you've achieved the rank of sergeant. He's had a terrific career so far, working in our traffic and safety section, our special victims unit, patrol, and we anticipate great things from you leading a patrol shift.
Okay, repeat after me. I, Kyle Weaver,
I, Kyle Weaver,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey.
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in the State of New Jersey,
and in the State of New Jersey,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of Office of Sergeant,
of Office of Sergeant,
Piscataway Police Department,
Piscataway Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Hey, give me a fist bump. Give me a fist. All right, all right.
I've had the pleasure of working with Kyle from his first day on the job. Kyle's a breath of fresh air, always willing to engage in a spirited conversation regardless of what the topic is, and I always appreciate that about Kyle. He's been very open with me and the department in sharing some personal stories. I had the moment to speak to his family earlier. My favorite, the trash can turkey story. We anticipate great things from Kyle as well. He's got a foundation in the investigation section working in narcotics for the county, municipal department, and also in general investigations. He's back now in patrol where he will lead a shift, and we expect great things. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out. You must recognize the hard work that goes into these promotions, as myself, Captain Morrison, and Captain Mosier do, and that's why we're so happy and so proud to be part of this process. Thank you very much.
I, Sade
I, Sade
Edens,
Eden,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in the State of New Jersey,
and in the State of New Jersey,
on the authority of the people,
on the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of Office of Probationary Police Officer
of Office of Probationary Police Officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, officer.
Thank you for coming out, everybody. Sade, congratulations. We welcome you to the team. Sade is a product of the Piscataway School District, and we are so happy to have her here, and we stole her from Highland Park. Congratulations.
Thanks, Chief.
To Michelle, who's worked in our juvenile section. She's worked in narcotics, patrol. She's taken over a leadership role in our training, community policing. She's getting us back on board with our accreditation. Thank you. This is a much-deserved promotion. Congratulations, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Kevin, you've worked in general investigations, juvenile, patrol, and our traffic section. You've done a terrific job. We expect great things from you as a leader on the midnight shift. Congratulations, and best of luck to you.
Okay, repeat after me. I, Michelle Pilch,
I, Michelle Pilch,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States and in this state, under the authority of the people, that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of Office of Sergeant, Piscataway Police Department, according to the best of my abilities. So help me God. Congratulations. Congratulations, Lieutenant.
So continue the good work that you do, and we are all very, very proud of you. Thank you very much.
Well, I must admit, that was an awful lot of promotions that took place over the last several months at Piscataway. As I was just mentioning to the councilman and to Jeff here, that it's a generational changeover going on, not just here in Piscataway, but around the country. All the baby boomers are starting to retire, so it's another generation taking over. So, with that being said, what do you think is the toughest challenge that local census takers are going to have in this entire process?
A couple things. First is I just think lack of census knowledge. When you do something once every 10 years, a lot of people don't realize it, and there's a lot of
sight,
new
out of mind.
communities. Yeah, and there's a lot of new communities who this will be their first opportunity to fill out a census, and then there's that distrust of government.
And that's at all levels.
Correct.
So it doesn't matter if it's federal, state, county, or local. So.
Right. So it's right now we're working identifying partners, elected officials, church leaders, business owners, community-based organization leaders, to be the trusted voice, to start that conversation in those communities, to talk about how safe the census is, that every piece of data is protected under federal law and can never be used against an individual for harm. Talk about how easy it will be, the 3 ways to self-respond: online, over the phone, on paper, and then to talk about just how important it is. The power, the money that comes into that community for the next 10 years will be based upon an accurate census.
I know that we're going to be here in Piscataway between our municipal Facebook account, our municipal website, the variable message signs that we have all around town, our public access channel that we're on right now. I know myself and several of the council members are going to be going to houses of worship over the next several months to promote the census. Any place we can go, whatever functions there, a museum function, library function, we're going to, in conjunction with the school district, to get the word out, especially to the younger families. Because you just brought up a very good point, Jeff, that some people just don't think if they're under a certain age, they don't need to be counted.
Yep.
And we want to get rid of that misconception out there that all citizens should be counted no matter what their age, even if they're only 1 day old or whether they're 100 years old. Everybody needs to be counted.
Yeah, according to the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, we have to count everyone living in the United States. Every resident that is here, whether they're a citizen or a non-citizen, they have to be included in the 2020 census.
I know if you were giving away dog treats, my 4 dogs would love to be counted. They would love to be counted. So, Councilman, did you have a question?
Yeah, you say all citizens, because a lot of people have like H1, H4 visa. Now, they always ask question that I am here for H1, H4. Do I fill up the census?
So we have what we call residence criteria that we put out there. On our website, 2020census.gov. There's posters and handouts, and then there's informative type of materials, such as a sample questionnaire, a fact sheet on residence criteria. And the census is really a snapshot in time. So we're looking at what does our country look like as of April 1st, 2020. So whether you fill it out in March or you fill it out in June or July, we're asking you who lived at this address as of April 1st, 2020. And we are required to count everyone living in the United States, whether they're a citizen or they're not a citizen, or a legal resident or not. So in that example, if this is their normal place of residence, if they have nowhere else that they're living, we want to make sure they get counted wherever they're living as of April 1st, 2020.
Okay. So even in college, the students here, if they live out of the New Jersey, they got to fill up the address for New Jersey, correct?
So if you have a child who lives in New Jersey,
like students,
goes to college
yes.
away, let's say they go to Michigan.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. If they spend most of the time of the year in Michigan, that's where they're going to be counted.
Okay.
And same here with students who come to Rutgers who live in Piscataway. We want to make sure they get counted in Piscataway.
Okay.
They're using the roads,
that's the question,
the schools, the
Services.
healthcare centers.
So 4 years, if they're here, they count as a year.
Right. Because again, this is a snapshot in time as of April 1st, 2020.
Okay.
Not where they're going to be, 5 years from now, but where they are.
I think that lends itself to a lot of confusion because people don't realize.
Say my ID is in my hometown. I'm just here for 4 years. So would I care for here in Piscataway, New Jersey?
Right.
So that's the main question was there. Okay.
And while we're concerned with an undercount, we also have an overcount. Yeah. And college students are a group that are college students and what we call snowbirds. May have 2 homes, one up north, one in the south. Yeah. They often get counted twice because the parents are including them on their form at home, and then they get counting at their college or university as part of our group quarters operation. So according to the criteria, we want to make sure everyone gets counted once and only once and in the right place. And in this situation, it's where they usually live or stay. When you're at college and you're there 9 months out of there, that's where you should be.
It's just like a voting election. When they are here, they can vote here, and they go back their town, they register again there. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We are going to go to our monthly announcements because the director's waving there. Go to the monthly announcements. So we're going to actually do that. So we're going to queue up the announcements. to be read. I want to remind our township residents the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast will be on Saturday, January 18th. This is a free event at the Senior Center. It's hosted by the Piscataway Civil Rights Commission and North Stelton AME Church. The keynote speaker is Reverend Dr. Ronald Slaughter of St. James AME Church in Newark. To reserve your seats, please email Ms. Dana Corman or Ms. Shirley Saunders. Or you can go to the municipal website or call the mayor's office. The rabies clinics, talking about census. Every year we have our own census. It's with cats and dogs required by the state of New Jersey. For your dogs and cats is a free rabies vaccination clinic. It's on Saturday, January 25th at the Public Works Garage. Dogs must be leashed, cats must be in carriers, and only one cat per carrier. The clerk's office in Town Hall will be open that morning to issue dog and cat licenses. Also on Saturday, homeowners can get their new Piscataway service cards from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Public Works office too at the same time. I do know that Councilman Sean will be there again handing out dog biscuits. He loves handing the dog biscuits out. And last but not least, all the holiday trees everybody had at their house this year. Please, you can either bring them down to the Department of Public Works or your local firehouse till the end of January. Should the Township Recycling Center during its normal hours. The trees must be devoid of all decorations because the trees are going to be recycled. And please do not put the trees in those recycling bags, those plastic recycling bags, because only Public Works Department employees will have to take the bags out. So because it goes to the landfill to be recycled. So we don't want any tinsel on the trees, no ornaments. Make sure you denude them of any ordinances, and please do not put them in bags because then it just creates more of a problem. And don't leave your trees out at the curb. We don't pick them up at the curb. You actually got to do a little legwork here. You just either take it to Public Works or your local firehouse. So that pretty much concludes our monthly announcements. I guess what we'll do is we're going to go back and highlight some of the census discussions. I know after speaking with a lot of mayors around the state, I think there's going to be a coordinated effort of every town to get this count because, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Jeff, that congressional and representation and also your state level representation's riding on the line. New Jersey's always on the cusp of losing a seat.
Yeah.
I think there's already projections that came out in the press this week. They're saying New York and Michigan are going to, and Pennsylvania, at least lose one. A couple other states will pick up some additional seats and stuff like that. And California, supposedly for the first time in over 150 years, is actually going to lose a congressional seat.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So I guess everybody's moving to either Utah or Colorado or whatever out there. But, and it really is extremely important. We can't reemphasize this enough. And I know the officials here are going to be broken records over and over and over. And I know, Jeff, you don't mind hearing that over and over because hopefully it makes your job and your coworkers' jobs a lot easier. Because the last thing you want to do is have some legal challenge from a municipality or a state saying we were undercounted. I mean, every 10 years there's always a couple of states that are on the cusp of gaining a seat or losing a seat, and then there's a big court challenge over, it maybe come down to only a handful of people that may decide who gets an additional congressional seat and who loses one.
And when you think of the funding that's tied to that, the undercount, the number of individuals that were missed in the census or chose not to be counted.
So how is it that the Department of Commerce ended up, the U.S. Department of Commerce ended up with the job as doing the census?
Yeah, it's a great question. As long as I've been, it's been.
I know
under
it's
the
been that way
Department of
for
Commerce,
for almost 80 years.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I mean, you always like to know what the genesis, how it landed in that department.
Yeah, it is interesting. And a lot of the statistical agencies are under Commerce as well, the Bureau of Statistics and other agencies in the D.C. area. Yeah.
Because you'd have thought like something like the Department of Labor, which really is a lot of it's statistical analysis, but what you're saying is a lot of the stats that the Department of Labor gets is derived from the Department of Commerce.
Right, it's data that we collect.
Yeah.
We're really data collectors, and
Yeah.
then we give it to the other federal agencies to do their tabulations. And
You know, in the
release it.
21st century, they call them data miners,
Yeah.
to be on the technical. And you know, it's something that Jeff, you're in one of the big data centers, capitals of the Northeast, right here in Piscataway. Because a lot of it's the cloud, all the cloud computing. A lot of it's here in Piscataway,
Yeah.
cloud computing. But Kapil, did you have another question of Jeff?
No, that's a general question right now. That's a question I have for students, the only thing. And main thing is that I think every occasion now we know that we can tell the people, don't give your credit card, don't give your social security. That's most important. Then people feel safe. Okay, that I don't want to give my social security. Anybody ask question, because a lot of people now, they know that you are age of 65. They call, oh, I am calling from your social security, and your social security closed if you don't do it, this, that. So that's the main concern about the social security number and credit card number.
Yep, those are two
So,
things.
yeah.
And again, our sample questionnaire is online, so you can see what we asked. It's
Yeah.
roughly
So
10 questions.
What,
That's it.
what are the what do you know what the question?
Yeah, so it's name, your age and your date of birth, your race and ethnicity, whether or not you're of Hispanic origin, your gender, whether you own or rent your home, and then your relationship to the first person on the form, like mother, father, son, daughter. And that's really it. We have a couple household questions then, just reminders about overcount or undercount to make sure you don't include your college student who's living away at campus outside of your community, and reminders about undercount, young children, babies, persons you employ who don't live anywhere else. And then we ask for a phone number, just so that if there is a quality issue, we can call you back. That's it. That's all we ask. And again, our form is online at 2020census.gov if you want to see exactly what the form is going to look like and the questions, and also I can't stress enough the hotline. If you don't feel right, if something doesn't feel right, call us. We'll do the research, we'll do the legwork, we'll let you know that yes, this is a census survey. If it's not the 2020 census, maybe it's one of our ongoing censuses. But there's also other private institutions, colleges and universities that do surveys. And we can at least let you know that it's legitimate or not. And if it's a scam, we alert our partner network, we alert the local media, we alert law enforcement.
Now, who decides on who gets the long form?
So the long form now is a sample. So it was roughly 1 out of every 6 households back in 2000. That's the last time we did a long form census. Now it's a sample that equates to roughly 1 out of every 6 over a 10-year period. So it's just a random sample based upon the census. So once the census is over, that's our basis to select our sample for the next 10 years on which addresses will get the long form.
So I know we touched upon it a little bit prior in the show that, you know, you're constantly collecting data throughout the 10-year period. Now, what other data is collected during that 10-year period?
So a lot of housing characteristics, income, health-related questions, crime. You know, a lot of people ask, you know, you see a news story about 20% of crimes go unreported. Well, if they go unreported, how do you know that there's crimes? Well, we collect data on that. We have a whole survey that you know, if someone was a victim of crime, we try to gather information so we can give that to the Bureau of Justice, who releases information. So there's a whole host of different types of things that we ask to support our nation's economy, to support businesses, demographic data, you know, for the next throughout the decade between the census.
So we're going to hold that thought, and we're going to go to. We have another rolling video. It's let's go to the Advanced Citizen Police Academy graduation. Let's go to the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to the Advanced Citizens Police Academy. This is as it's indicated, the advanced program. Without the support of the mayor and council, we wouldn't be able to run these programs. They are the core of what we do, serve the community.
So it's incumbent upon the police department to work with the local residents and build that trust up there. Because if the department doesn't have trust from the residents, we need the residents to help the department. And without your input, we can't make our community safe.
And you know that we solicit your assistance. We're going to continue to do that. And I hope you enjoy the program, and I'll see you again at graduation. One of the things that was said was the friendships and the relationship that you fostered in your time. That's very parallel to the police academy. I think everybody here attest to the relationships that we formed in our police academy time are still with us to this day. And the friends that you've made in this room, you will carry with you for a very long time, particularly if you get involved, as many, I know I've seen several of these faces before, as you participate in our National Night Out, our fireworks, and our street fair, our parades, things like that. You'll more and more you'll interact with your new friends.
Once again, I want to thank our citizens for participating with our Piscataway Police Department for the Advanced Citizens Police graduation. And I think some of them are looking for a postdoc degree in police work right now. They're trying to convince the chief to do that. We do have another video from the Senior Citizen Police Academy. So let's go to that.
Say that knowledge is power, and over the next 6 weeks you will be empowered, not only in your own, what you're going to learn for yourself, but most importantly, what you can share with your fellow peers who maybe don't leave the house as often as they should or don't participate as often as they should. So we're going to empower you to do those kinds of things and share what you learn here with some of your friends.
When we were having the TV show earlier this year, I had him on as a guest, and we were talking about the adult community policing and then the juvenile community policing. And I said, hey, what about a senior citizen community policing? And then that, as the captain said, put the seed in motion to figure out how we can have our community resource officers to come on and come up with a program for you. I don't expect you to go out and make citizens arrests after you graduate, but you are going to find that we have a highly educated police department. The police department in Piscataway is only going to be as good as working with you, the residents. Everybody sees it in the news. All you need is one incident to happen in a community, and then the trust goes out the window. And what we'd like to do through successive leaderships within the command staff here in the department have opened up a lot of opportunities for the residents to see to humanize the men and women in Piscataway Police Department, to see what they're about. And hopefully you will take more back to your colleagues here at the Senior Center and say, hey, listen, this is what the police department's all about. Well, we're not showing this as a deterrent to any potential criminals that our seniors are armed. But I do think from what I understand, a lot of the seniors really did love that because they got a well-rounded education at the department, and a lot of them loved the firearm simulator where they were able to in a safe environment. Yeah. So. And
one more thing, that Police Academy, whoever graduate, they also help us on a memorial parade.
That's correct.
As a community events. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the councilman's alluding to is that other public events throughout the year, Jeff, that Police Department picks up the phone, call folks that have went through this little academy to come supplement them, for crowd control and everything like that. So it kind of works, and they get a nice shirt and right there. So it's pretty good. So you do have a visual that you want put up. Yeah. So we're going to put the visual, the Department of Commerce Census Bureau visual. So it's
job information.
Jobs information. So we're going to get that queued up. Hopefully our folks in the back staff there, it's coming. It's coming. But anyway, you're saying there's a lot of jobs out there.
Yeah, I mean, part of how you can support a census, two things. One, you can be that trusted voice. And there you see on the screen, 2020census.gov/jobs. If you're interested in, I like to call these gig jobs. Yeah. We have 5 or 6 operations that we're going to be conducting. We started hiring last week. We'll continue hiring through March. Our largest operation, we're going to hire 500,000 people nationwide to go knock on doors. And in the state of New Jersey, we're paying anywhere from $17.50 to $22 per hour. Middlesex County, we're paying $21 per hour. Okay. You work in your own community. Great thing about this job, because they are short-term temporary jobs, you choose your hours. So if you have a full-time job, and let's say you want to pay off some holiday bills, maybe you want to save up for a summer vacation, come work for us. You can work nights and weekends, 15, 20 hours a week, and be successful. And you're serving your community, you're making some really good money, and you're being a part of history. When you think about it, we do this once every 10 years since 1790. come be a part of history and earn some great money doing it.
Now, is there a requirement of any age or?
So it is 18 years of age, and we do have flexibilities within the law to hire non-citizens in areas where we need a language skill, and we don't have any citizens with that particular skill. Have to have a social security number, and in some areas you need a card, but it's not necessary if there's public transportation, because we want to keep you working in your own community. We train you in your community. It's paid training and mileage reimbursement while on official duty.
Well, that seems sensible. You want to try to keep the individual right in the community, so.
Yep, they're the trusted
So
voice.
what we will be doing, Piscataway, this station will be running this commercial, sort of this public information out there for the next month and a half or so out there. Not only just the regular census information, but this for hiring
Excellent.
purposes. So, because I'd much rather see township residents get the jobs.
Absolutely.
Temporary jobs.
That's the way we're successful.
Let's
is
go on
when
like a
people are
community
working.
news. Just go all day.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we're going to go to another quick video feed. It was on the Education Services ribbon cutting on the Futures Foundations building. Collaborative partnership to help students learn the necessary skills to lead a successful life. And I think that's been the mission of a lot of elected officials here, not only at the county, state, or local level, and the educators in this room, but the mission of the parents. Because to the parents, they're dealing this day in and day out, trying to see that their children will be productive in life. And with the Futures Foundation Academy, in conjunction with the Education Services, you've accomplished that.
But one of the reasons this is one of the finest places in America in which to live is here. The services that you provide improve the quality of life for your constituents. And we are proud to have you here in Central Jersey because of the good work of our leaders, but we want to see it thrive and prosper, get bigger, provide more services, because you really make a difference in so many lives.
There's a million reasons to be proud to live in Middlesex County, and this is just one of them. So to everybody here who made that possible, especially to Mark, who is a true leader and visionary, really, when it comes to putting things together and making things work. We're very, very fortunate. So Mark, congratulations to you.
This is a program that provides job skills for our students and promotes independent living for our students. We've talked about this often. The days of providing parents with false hopes and false information are behind us.
I want to congratulate Mark Finkelstein, the Education Services Superintendent, and his support staff there for that facility over there keeps expanding every year, and it does save the taxpayers a lot of money over the course of time. But more importantly is the parents feel a comfort level to know that you have this highly educated staff over there that are dealing with their children that have a multifaceted of needs over there, and it should be a model for around the country, quite frankly. So I want to thank those folks. We do have another video feed here before we close out the show. We're going to show a quick. This is obviously the community center that's being built as we speak, and the construction workers over the last 2 weeks started putting the windows in. The big windows, that's the side where the Aquatic Center, and this is the spray park that's being built, the tanks. This week they're starting to do bring the blockworks, and this is actually equipment for the spray park right here, some of the spray parks. So that's, for the next 2 months, depending upon what the weather is, Councilman, they're expecting in government circles, they're 3 months ahead of schedule. That doesn't happen too often in government circles. No. So that's pretty good. So I want to thank everybody for watching the January show, and thank you, Jeff Behler from the United States Department of Commerce Census Bureau. We wish you many counts.
Thank you, Mayor.
Coming up, and we will be back at the residence over the next 3 months to making sure everybody gets counted, every citizen, every person. So I want to thank Kapil Shah for being on here, and we'll see you back on February.